Well, hi there, everyone. This is Mark Plunkett, the pastor of Heritage Presbyterian Church, and this is our weekly devotional for the first week of March, March the 7th, 2022. Today, I want to talk about Abram. Now, that was his name before he became Abraham, Father Abraham. In the beginning of the story of this man, he was called Abram, and he was a righteous man, and he walked with God, and he did what God told him. There is nothing in the Bible that tells us that God told him to do this or do that, and Abram hesitated, or Abram doubted, or Abram, whatever. Matter of fact, the only thing that Abram had a problem with was when God told him, I will make a great nation of you, and Abram didn't have any kids. And the only child that he had fathered was with his wife's servant, and it was Ishmael. And so Abram thought God was going to use that young man to build a great nation. And God told him, no, he will become a great nation, but that's not what I'm talking about. And he took Abram outside and he told him to look up. And he said, your descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky. Now I want you to think about that for a second. As numerous as the stars in the sky. Now, depending on where you are in the world, where you're standing, especially back in the days of Abram, if you looked up at the sky, you would not be able to count how many stars there are. And of course, in the ancient days, they didn't realize that some of the things they were looking at were planets, or asteroids, or comets, or some other kind of rock that was, flying around in space for whatever reason, meteorites perhaps. But the main thing that they would see when they looked up were huge burning balls of gas, billions and billions of miles away. In other words, other stars. And so when Abram looked up, he saw too many stars to count. Now, with our modern telescopes, we can count how many stars there are that are out there that we can see. Now, we can also count how many we can't see. In other words, how many we need a really powerful telescope in order to be able to find them. As we keep making telescopes better and better, and as we keep making them bigger and bigger, and even as we're launching more telescopes above the atmosphere to get really, really, really clear pictures, places we've never seen before, we're beginning to understand that the number of stars in the sky is a number that cannot be definitely determined, but it is huge. Now, God would know this. Abraham wouldn't, but God would know this. So when God told Abram, look toward heaven and count the stars if you are able to count them, then the Lord said to him, so shall your descendants be. And then it says, Abram believed God, and the Lord reckoned it to him as righteousness. So Abram was righteous because he did believe God, even though he didn't have a son with his wife Sarah, who was called Sarai at the time. So things changed later on for Abram and Sarai. And they did have a son. His name was Isaac. And Isaac had children. And they had children. And so forth, and so forth, and so forth. And today, I can honestly say, the descendants of Abram are as numerous as the stars in the sky. So the next time you look up at the night sky, wherever you happen to be, whether it's in a city or out in the country or whatever, think about that promise that God made to Abram. And think about this also. God keeps his promises to us too. Amen.